I've wanted a way to easily build agents, AI agents, and in an agentic loop where they basically gets given a task and they go off and solve it until they've solved it, really. To really do that, you need tools. In other words, there's no point in asking an AI to solve some kind of a problem if it doesn't have a way to talk to the outside world. And that is a challenge because you need to give it guardrails, input validation, massage the output into certain formats, and so forth. Often with systems like Claude, that's done with a skill or with an MCP. MCPs are tools, but the skill might guide it on how to use the tools. And so I want to do something similar, but I don't want to go and write MCPs and all that kind of stuff. I want something that's really easy to self-contained. Now, Choria has a thing called App Builder, which here is App Builder in use. In this directory where I am, when I run this command, this is what I get. It's a little bit like calling make or one of those kind of local task oriented commands. But you can also have other that's control. Here I have a command that interacts with the real world, and it goes and talks to Choria. But again, it's an app builder command, and so this is a set of tools, and here we can see it has inputs and it has validation, and it tells you what arguments you can pass into this command. And so that is that kind of guidance and control that I'm talking about in terms of tools. So I have a way to make tools that's CLI orientated and to describe those tools. And so if I go back to this example over here, we have a tool called report and downloads. And if I run it, it goes and it talks to the GitHub API. It fetches the releases for the latest for the latest release of the NAT CLI, and it gives me the totals. If we look at the command though, we can see, I'm going to put here for the certain defaults to the latest release. And then what you can see here is there's the flags, release org repo. I have defaults. And not shown here, but they could have validations, input validations, required, optional, etc. And then what happens is I'm calling to the GitHub API. I am running a query against it, and so it takes a JSON and it comes back from here, from the curl, and it queries into the JSON for assets, and then it runs assets through a report. Okay, that's what you see there. And so if we go back out, you see this is the report that you saw on the screen. And so this is a tool. This talks to the external API, takes guide railed input via flags and arguments, talks to the API, massages the result in a easy to parse output. Now what I really want is to be able to turn this into an agent, like an LLM agent that I can ask to do things with using English. And what I have here is basically the definition of an agent. I say I want it to run ABT, so it's going to run that. I want you to speak via Cloud API, Sonnet 4.6 model, and this is what I wanted to do. Now when this command starts up, it uses Fisk, so it supports any command that's written in Fisk. It introspects that command, extracts from that command its full model, all of the flags and arguments and commands deeply nested, and it turns those into tools. And so if I do that one, and say prompt, just gonna put something there, we can see it's taken test unit, and it made me a test unit tool. And here we have downloads, and this is the help that you saw in the description. If I did ABT report, we can see it's the exact same output that you see there. Now let's run this. We say for the latest NATS IO NATS CLI release, how many Linux AMD 64 downloads has there been? Also note the highest downloaded binary. Okay. Now, you can see it's calling. It says report downloads, which is the we told it that from help it knows exactly what to call report downloads. The Fisk introspection gives it a schema for every argument and every flag, and what is valid in there and what is not valid in there. And so this is the LLM doing a tool call to Fisk. It's called it, it's finished, took no time at all, and it's parsed it. So the latest release is 040. Linux MD64 downloads is just these 2,300. And so the highest downloaded binary is the Darwin 64 one with 3,400 downloads. And so you can see it's just making up stuff here about the Silicon Mac users, etc. This is correct information because it got it from a tool and it's just summarizing the result. But what you can see is really, really easily, I've just made a agent with tools, with everything, by just using the stuff that I already have, what I've already written, or any existing CLI command. Now, you can imagine a scenario where you have an agent that runs like this, and maybe it listens on a network, perhaps via the Choria RPC, commands, where it becomes callable remotely. And then here I have one that's focused on, maybe managing one aspect. Over there, I have another agent running that's capable of interacting with Grafana data or monitoring data or something along these lines. And these agents will be able to call each other. But all I have to do is write these task files, these App Builder files to create tools. Now, if I wanted to go further, if I wanted to use a compiled application, which is what NATS is. NATS is written in Go, and it's a compiled application. And if I look at it, you can see it turns out a ton of tools. Now, this is too many tools. You'll blow away the context. But what I'm demonstrating is that you can either write a YAML file and you have an entire standalone agent, or Go doing anything that a Go application can do, and it will expose those things as tools. And so if you have a library that can interact with workflow engines, databases, anything you want, you put it in here. Now the Fisk library supports, for instance, tagging. Like if I do NATS stream add help, you won't see it here, but if I do like this, we can see that the commands, where are they? Yeah, we can see their impact tagged. So if I go this command stream add, sorry, let me do this. There we go. So these commands, stream add, stream ls, stream report, they have read write impact or read only impact. So Fisk commands understands if you tell them what they're doing and what their impact is. And so we can, for instance, say whenever this LLM tries to call a command that has read only impact, just go ahead and do it. But if it has read write impact, you should call out to the human and say, do I have permission to call this command? And so as the agent loop works through solving a problem using all of the available tools that it's going to find, all of these, it will know which ones are safe to call and which ones are not, and when to reach out to the human for human in the loop assistance, etc. And that you can describe in a system prompt, and it will follow this. Or we can standardize the tag format that Fisk agent understands. And you can imagine even reach out to Slack, ask for permission to run a command before it continues, for cases where we take this concept of an agent, turn it into a long-running agent command. This is very early days. I've only just started playing with this concept, but I find this is I've been thinking a long time how to do this. How do I write the tools? How do I make a very easy definition, just YAML file that include tools? And I realized App Builder is exactly that. And so bringing these things these two things together, we can have a full agentic loop with tools and everything, with the guardrails, with the control, and all that kind of stuff included. This is just a few hours of hacking between last night and this night, so I don't really have much more than that. It's only like 200 lines of code, but I think I'm on to quite an interesting way to create these kind of standalone agents that can just run and be callable. You can even imagine like orchestrator agents that orchestrate other agents, etc. Anyway, that's just some thoughts and some random hacking for the night, to see how we can reuse some of the capabilities that I have in order to solve things. And so maybe one last one last example. P control is a Puppet control, yeah? And so you can see I have nodes maintenance and node state and nodes trigger, and so I can do things like trigger Puppet on all the nodes with identity SFO. Okay, let's see what's going to happen. And there we go, it's called it, and you can see it successfully triggered a Puppet run on all 3 nodes in San Francisco in 600 milliseconds. And yeah, it's just like that. I have a thing that integrates a Puppet because I happen to have an App Builder command that looks like this. Oops. And then it went and called the trigger command with the correct argument to filter to a certain subset of nodes. And so really easy way to just go from nothing to a prompt-based workflow for interacting with servers. Anyway, it's an experiment. I have a long way to go to turn this into something useful, but thought I'd share. Thank you.